This is Portland Basin in Ashton-under-Lyne near Manchester. It's where the northern end of the Peak Forest Canal meets the Ashton Canal. The Ashton goes off towards Manchester, or the other way, up to the Huddersfield Narrow Canal. Moored at the edge of the basin, next to an excellent and free waterways museum, is a collection of 6 ancient wooden narrowboats. They might look a tad dilapidated, but these 3 are the restored ones in full working order. They're under the care and preservation of the Wooden Canal Boat Society, which was founded by this man about 30 years ago.
It sort of grew out of my obsession with old wooden boats, which started right back in 1974 when I bought a full-length wooden narrowboat for £100 and rebuilt it, which was actually sort of therapy for me because I just dropped out of teacher training college. I got pretty depressed, but just got stuck into that job. And then somebody offered me another full-length boat for £25. And then years passed and it seemed sensible to set up some sort of organisation. And then more came until when we got our 6th boat in 1995, our treasurer said, if you get any more boats, I'm resigning. And, well, getting a good, reliable, honest treasurer is really, really difficult, so we had to stop then.
Truth be told, narrowboat Hazel is in decent nick, but the paintwork could do with a touch-up to say the least. But it's a far cry from the boat's condition when it was rescued, and yes, it's fair to say a lot of the boat isn't now original, with substantial recrafting of much of the hull.
Well, you have to dry dock it, take it out onto dry dock out of the water, then rip the old planks out and replace them with new green oak planks. But it's not as simple as it sounds. I mean, you've got shoeing, which is metal protecting along the edge, going along both edges at the bottom. You've got to take all that off, take the planks out, replace it, and then replace the shoeing, and then retar it, chalico it. You know, it's like 6 weeks' job.
Clearly, boat restoration is hard work, which makes Nessie's involvement all the more astonishing when he tells you this.
Initially, I had a broken back. I was registered as disabled for life. But I'm ADHD, so I can't sit still. So I signed myself off, and after so many years of being out of work, I thought it's best to get some work reference, you know, a bit of work behind me. So I came down and seen Chris, asked him if there was any work available, and he said, yeah. He started explaining the boats to me. At the time, Forget-Me-Not had had an engine in it for 18 months, not running. Elton was on the bottom. He got a phone call, he had to go up to Staley Bridge for half an hour, and he come back and I had Forget-Me-Not ticking over. How have you done that? Like, well, I was a mechanic for 7 years. I'm basically a jack of all trades. I can turn my hand to everything. 2 weeks later, he saw me in the canal and I was stuffing rags in the holes in Elton, and I got that up and it's been up since, like, for nearly 12 years now.
Fixing the boats has given Nessie both a purpose and a welcome distraction from troublesome issues in his life. Talk to the other volunteers here and you start to find it's a common thread.
I'm in recovery. I'm 7 years sober, member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I got introduced, I can't remember how, but I got introduced to Chris. Went in the shop a few times, and then I seen a sign that said, you know, would you like to volunteer? And being open-minded now that I am, I thought, I'll give it a go. And so I asked Chris, I come down, I've never looked back.
But the boats and volunteers are no closed shop looking only inwards. One way they've raised money was to promise service to the community in return, and they've done that by offering well-being canal trips for people who need a break. Inside Hazel is a warm and cosy space, with bench seating on either side of the saloon. In the corner roars a very warm stove, a liability on a wooden boat you'd think, but it seems fine, and it's perfect for making a brew. That it's a wooden boat is very evident, from the exposed beams on the cabin top sides to the still visible metal skeleton and planks of the hull. A full galley means catering is no problem, and guests can stay aboard too, with beds, as well as a fully accessible toilet and shower.
Some people just like to come and stay on the boat down here at Portland Basin and seem to get great benefit from just staying overnight somewhere away from home. Some people like to go for just a day trip of just a few hours out. That's been particularly so in the last year because we had some funding to provide trips for NHS and care workers who've worked hard through the pandemic, and they really appreciated that. Or we can go away, we can take people on holidays. We're a bit restricted at the moment because of the lock closures with water shortages, but fairly standard one is to go up from here up the Lower Peak Forest Canal to Marple, or sometimes we'll stay at Chadkirk, which is a really nice place. Stay overnight, come back the next day, and it just makes a really nice break for people.
With Hazel being an unpowered butty, it has to be towed by another boat, in this case Forget-Me-Not, whose engine was being unusually smoky that day, as volunteer Aaron turned it around ready for the trip, with Chris being a human bow thruster at the front, using a long pole to help wind the boat. These boats need constant love and care. In fact, Hazel's restoration almost ended before it began.
The final lock going up to the Heritage Boatyard in Staley Bridge, I looked inside and I went, where's all that water coming from? Because the water had filled up to the top of the kelson about 3 inches. And it was an old leak from years ago that we'd plugged up, which had restarted. I'm shouting, get it out of this lock as quick as possible, because you don't want to sink in a lock, you know. And we did, and she only had to stay afloat one more night, and we got her out the water.
Hazel and Forget-Me-Not were now tied front and back, so that the motorboat could pull Hazel off the moorings, and we'd head west along the Ashton Canal for a short cruise. They were only tied side by side until the undocking was complete. Then Forget-Me-Not was moved ahead to tow Hazel behind. With practiced skill, the pair of Chris and Aaron re-tied Hazel at the back, and we set off on our way.
God bless them, eh? Set on them.
Past Lilith, which Aaron had earlier punted out of the way onto a side mooring. You've got to be even more careful than usual past moored boats when there's not only your own 70-foot boat, but the other 70-footer you're towing behind. The geese were unimpressed with the manoeuvring, but I was. It may be the industrial outskirts near Manchester, but it was a pleasure to be a passenger on a canal boat again. We went past the entrance to a now disused arm, where once boats would have loaded cargo. All along here, the warehouses of the Industrial Revolution would have been putting goods on and off narrowboats, receiving raw materials and sending finished products around the world. These bricked-up holes were unloading points once upon a time from a mill or such like, long gone from this derelict site.
It started in a powder coating works.
Every now and again, I'd check we still had our counterpart behind, but the folk steering had everything under control. It's turns like this and narrow bridge holes that can cause an upset if another boat coming the other way doesn't expect and make allowances for a towing pair. Luckily, the canal was quiet on this occasion, and it was very beautiful and tranquil. That's one of the old mill buildings.
That was what the pump house for.
Several decades ago, this would have been a common sight, with a working pair of boats carrying cargo, not people. You can easily see why people come aboard these boats to escape and give their mind a break. I know wooden boats in general are not exactly a novelty, but on the canals they are very rare, and it still boggles my mind that this entire hull is planks of wood, sealed with tar and straw and things. This was our furthest point, a winding hole just past the M60 motorway. In order to turn back, the pair had to be breasted up again, so that once more Forget-Me-Not could use its power to bring both boats around. This involves a lot of hard rudder and high revs, edging the boats forward and round, then backwards, before going forwards and round a bit more, and again, until eventually you're facing the other way. Like everything on the canals, this is not a quick process. The turn complete, the boats would revert to towing, so once more Chris switched the lines around at front and back, and we went back the way we'd come. I took this chance to ask helmsman Aaron what he gets from being a member of the society.
Meet new people, get to learn different skills, and, well, working on them, keep them up and running.
Then I jumped ship, literally, onto Hazel and asked Joan what it's like to steer a boat that's being towed with no engine of its own.
It is odd, there's no noise and you've just got to keep your eyes on the canal, because as soon as you take your eyes off, the boat will just stay somewhere else. So it's not one of them where you can just do something else. You have to keep your eyes on it.
So the towing boat doesn't just happily pull it behind it?
No, you have to steer the boat as well. You have to be in the middle of the canal because at the edges, that's where you get stuck. So I just have a point there where I just follow Aaron. Like when he turns the corner up there, I'll wait till I get to that point and then I will turn. I've learned quite a lot from Aaron and Chris. It's been really, really good.
We were almost back to Portland Basin, and the boats breasted up once more to come onto the mooring.
Proper stuff then.
Yeah. Yeah, pull it in. Tie it off. Tie it off.
It had been a glorious little trip, which showed just why everyone at the Wooden Canal Boat Society enjoys them so much.
I just love boats, and I never realised how lovely they are and how nice it is to be on the canal. Because you see them going past, but it's different when you're on them. Very different.
When you're riding on the boat and through the canals, you see the nature. And Chris knows so much about the canal, so he usually tell you about the history of everything, so you learn so much as well. It's so many different things.
Despite being on dry land, the constant sound of a bilge pump keeping a sinking boat afloat brings you to Queen, the next huge restoration job for the team. Built in 1917 for a company in Walsall, the boat was abandoned in 1947 and left to sink, was rescued and used as a pleasure boat for 38 years, after which it sank again, was rescued again, sank again, was abandoned, a tree fell on it, and then it was rescued by Chris.
She's now the oldest surviving wooden motor narrowboat. She's hogged like a banana. She tried to sink this morning, but we stopped her from doing that. 2001, the Waterways Trust, as they were then, gave us a small grant to sheathe her in metal and fill all the cavities in her hull with chalico, which is a wonderful mixture of pitch, tar and horse manure. Better than anything you can buy at B&Q. Which has kept her together because otherwise she'd have fallen to bits by now.
Clearly, Queen needs a total rebuild, but they already have a classic Bollinger engine to use and now just need the funds, as is always the case. For the group of dedicated volunteers here, an unexpected consequence of helping is that whilst they've restored the boats in turn have restored them.
When I know I'm coming here, something switches inside of me. Once I get through them gates there, it's a different world. It's so relaxing. It's just a pleasure to be here. And then once you get out on the boat, it's like a bubble. And the tall trees on either side just separate you from all your troubles, all your bills, everything that's going on everywhere. The only thing you hear is birds. Your racing head will stop, only for a couple of hours. And then when you go back outside, you realise that life's not so bad.
I think it's nice to have like some sense of belonging, like to some community. Like I think it's good for your mind. Like it's brilliant experience. I don't know how to explain it. It's very good for the person's mental health, definitely.
I was wrote off as disabled, and Chris gave me the chance to do something, and get back out. And I was depressed and everything, and they just keep me going because I'm ADHD. I can't sit still, and these help with me depression and everything. I don't suffer with it no more.
It has really brought me out with myself and got me out of the house to actually speak to people. Because when you're feeling like that, you don't want to speak to people, do you? But they make you feel so you wanted and you needed, and you're putting something back into the community, and that's what we want. We want people to come out of their houses, to come to the boat, even if they can't do a lot, just come and sit and have a brew. It's just nice.
With 3 of the 6 boats in, frankly, dire straits, and constant work needed on the 3 that are restored, the charity is, unsurprisingly, always in need of money and help. They have a shop which needs donations to sell, as well as people to staff it. Not to mention all the activity on the boats, and Chris himself admits he's not getting any younger.
Time's passing now and I'm getting on a bit, so we need to find more people with that same passion, because there's so few of them left now, and most of them are in a really, really poor condition. We need to find the people to keep it going, which is not necessarily the boat building. You know, there's the fundraising, there's the publicity, because people need to know about it. It's a really, really important part of the heritage of the waterways. There's plenty of steel boats that people lovingly look after, but they sort of balk at the amount of work and maintenance that's involved in a wooden boat, which is not surprising, but if a load of people gang together, it works.
If you fancy helping out the Wooden Canal Boat Society, whether that's restoring the old boats if you've got the specialist skills they need, or maybe just helping out on the trips, serving teas and coffees and doing the cleaning, that kind of thing, they would be very grateful to hear from you. I've left a link to their website in the description below, and go there too if you'd like to take a trip on the boat. They've got various kind of trips for various kind of people, so get in touch with them, drop them an email, and they will be delighted to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for watching. Cheerio.